Injuries equal opportunities. We'll talk about that right now on Fantasy Football Today Express. Yeah, definitely some guys got beat up in week 9. Maybe that will open up some waiver wire options for you in week 10. It's an optimistic way of looking at it. We never want to see anybody get hurt, obviously. Welcome to Fantasy Football Today Express. Adam Aizer and Jamey Eisenberg. Okay, who's the player to go get on waivers?
It's a great question, Adam. I'm working through it right now, and I'm going to say probably Parker Washington because of his opportunity. Not only do we have Travis Hunter on IR for at least the next 3 games, but Brian Thomas Jr. may be dealing with a high ankle sprain, so might not have him going into week 10. Clearly not an easy matchup against Houston, but this could be a long-term situation. And if he's going to be the number 1 receiver for any team, you're going to probably hear Jacksonville in the next 24 hours in a lot of conversations for wide receivers. But Washington looks like the go-to guy for Trevor Lawrence. He's coming off a strong game against the Raiders, so he's the number 1 guy to go get.
Okay. Yippee, Yahoo. Yeah. I just hope. I think it would feel a little bit different than Chimere DK. Obviously, hindsight's 2020, but DK is coming off 2 really good games in a row and then goes for 0, I think. No, he had 1 catch for a few yards yesterday. How would you compare the 2 of them?
Player-wise, I wouldn't. Fantasy-wise, I think you're looking at, number 1 receiver on their respective teams, potentially. And in the case of DK, it was still, okay, is he that much better than Io Manor? Can you trust the quarterback? In this case, I trust the quarterback a little bit more. And there's at least a little bit of a body of work for Parker Washington. He had some good moments last year and had a couple good games earlier this season. So I would say Washington's in a better spot.
Okay, well, let's get into, why don't we stay on, we'll come to wide receivers later. Let's go to quarterback. We'll do like we always do. Who are the quarterbacks to get this week?
So the one guy I think if you're looking at for a starter for week 10 would be Marcus Mariota, because we know Jane Daniels is not going to play. And the matchup against Detroit, not exactly horrible. Then, if you're looking at it short-term, long-term, they get the Dolphins in week 11. I'm going to guess Daniels is out at least through their week 12 bye if I had to just, try to, play doctor here. Why would they rush him back for a team that's probably not going to be in the playoffs at this point, with what he's dealing with? So Mariota may have 2 starts in 2 very good matchups. When you get past him, it's more long-term than there is short-term. So really? Justin Fields.
What? I'm surprised. I would have thought Penix would be your favorite.
I don't love Penix, and I don't really love the schedule as much. So New Orleans, Indianapolis, I don't think they're just a cakewalk.
No, they're not.
And then you get Carolina and then New Orleans and the Jets. Carolina's not been easy either.
No, I was thinking for a 1-week thing that you'd like Penix this week.
No, I'd rather start Mariota against the Lions, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I just don't know what I'm going to get from Penix. He's got 3 games over 20 fantasy points, and then everything else has been miserable.
Yeah.
So it's just so fluky for him.
Yeah.
So after Mariota, I have Fields. You want to buy into obviously what Fields has done when he's been great, and you may get Garrett Wilson back, but the schedule's brutal. So here's what he has, again, short-term versus long-term. Off their bye, it's Cleveland, New England, Baltimore, Atlanta next 4 games. That's brutal. However, if you want to stash him for the playoffs, week 14, 15, 16, Miami, Jacksonville, New Orleans. If he's still the starter, then that's league-winning matchups.
Potentially, yeah. He's got that potential.
Then McCarthy, almost a very similar situation. Now, week 11, he gets Chicago, but I don't know how much you want to trust him against Baltimore. And he feels like a poor man's version of Jackson Dart. Like, he's getting the job done fantasy-wise, but it doesn't feel like it's sustainable. 143 passing yards, 2 touchdowns through the air. He scored on the ground. It's 22 or more fantasy points in 2 starts, but only 25 pass attempts. Like, how great can he be against the Ravens? Might be awesome if they're chasing points. I just don't know. But again, you get to the fantasy playoffs with him. 14, 15, 16, 17. Washington, Dallas, the Giants, and Detroit. Like, if he's playing well by then,
yeah,
you want that.
Yep.
We talked about this on the Sunday show. I have Geno Smith next. He's played 5 games with Brock Bowers. Obviously, Bowers was not healthy in 2 of those games. Or, 3 of those games. But in the 5 games with Bowers, 19.5 fantasy points or more in 3 of them. 2 of them over 30 fantasy points. So Don't play him this week against Denver. Love him next week against Dallas. Rest of season schedule after that is brutal, but 1 week situation, you might want to trust him. And then I have Penix next. I just don't know what to make of Penix.
All right, fair enough. We're going to take a break and we'll do running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, DSTs after this on FFT Express. All right, running backs. We talked off the air about who the number one guy is. It's not a great week for running backs, but what do you got?
Just one more note on the quarterbacks. Sam Darnold is at 76%. Joe Flacco's at 71%. Make sure those guys are not on your waiver wire.
Yeah, seriously.
The running backs, for me, I go back and forth right now. Devin Singletary or Terrell Jennings. Like, I don't know which one's the best one, to be honest with you. I'm going to go Singletary because he could be the best guy for the Giants rest of season. So, played more snaps than Tyrone Tracy. Obviously, did not do a lot with it, but if you're just looking at somebody who could be a potential flex for you, I think there's a little bit more opportunity for Singletary because if Ramondre Stevenson comes back this week, Jennings is going to be relevant. So I have Singletary 1, Jennings 2. Then I still think we have to monitor what's happening with the injuries that went into a bye. So you got Tank Bigsby for the Eagles and Dylan Sampson for the Browns. Hopefully we get word that there's, a healthy Saquon Barkley, healthy Quinshon Judkins, but just pick those guys up just in case. Bashal Tutin got a little bit more involved, scored a touchdown against the Raiders. I'd take a look at him. Isaiah Davis, we may know by Tuesday what his status is, so he's still on the list. And then Brian Robinson Jr. just as a handcuff because, God forbid, something happens to Christian McCaffrey. Brian Robinson Jr. is the league winner.
Did you mention Chris Rodriguez? Any interest there?
I have no interest in the Commanders' backfield at all. At all.
Probably...
I'm not going to drop Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt yet, but he's clearly droppable in 10-team leagues.
Okay, how about wide receiver? You got Parker.
So this is where it gets, a little bit more interesting. So you got Parker Washington, with his opportunity. Torrey Horton coming off the 2-touchdown game. We don't know when Cooper Kupp's going to be back. Sam Darnold looks awesome right now. And I liked Horton going into Sunday as a sleeper, and he clearly performed well in that matchup against Washington. And so he's worth picking up. Then the next two guys I have are both Colts, Alec Pierce and Josh Downs. It feels like we're going to get a Charger situation with the Colts where you don't know which receiver is going to step up. But Pierce has actually had a nice little floor recently. Downs has been, pretty consistent, take away the concussion game where he missed. So both those guys I think are worth adding. Tez Johnson, we don't know what's happening with Chris Godwin. Clearly you want to have him on your team just in case to see what happens. Demario Douglas starting to play well. He was somebody I liked coming into the season. Now Kayshon Boutte's out, or at least dealing with an injury. So Demario Douglas is worth a look. Darius Slayton, we've had now 2 potential touchdowns here. Like, at some point he's going to hit. And, not a bad receiver to stash. Calvin Austin had 5 catches coming off, the first game back from injury. And then now Cedric Tillman is eligible to return. So we don't know what it'll look like with Dylan Gabriel. I don't think it'll be great, but maybe somebody you want to stash in deeper leagues.
Okay, and tight end. By the way, I think you'll enjoy Beyond the Box Score, folks, the one that I just recorded with Jacob and Dan, because we talked a lot about Torrey Horton and the Colts wide receivers. Might help you out. Tight end.
Tight end's great. You got Harold Fannin coming off a bye, 61% rostered. Go right back to him immediately. And I think the same thing with David Njoku, 50% roster. Now, Njoku may get traded. Just something to keep an eye on there. I would love to see maybe Green Bay go get him now that they have the Tucker Kraft confirmation that it's a torn ACL, which sucks. But you got Corson Loveland coming off his big game. It's worth taking a look to see what he can do, especially against the Giants this week. I know it's not the Bengals, but Cole Kmet may be out with the back injury, or excuse me, I believe it's ankle injury now. Whatever he got hurt. Back injury again. But you got Fannin, you got Loveland, you got Cade Otton. We don't, again, know the Bucs injuries at wide receiver, and Otton has clearly been very good and very, very involved. Should have had a touchdown in his last game. Dalton Schultz, you can go back to him, even with Davis Mills under center because it's the Jaguars and they couldn't stop Brock Bowers. Mason Taylor coming back from the bye week. He was really good against the Bengals. We'll see how he does. Juwan Johnson scored a touchdown first game with Tyler Shuck. And then Brenton Strange is going to return soon, again, with the injuries to the Jaguars receiving core. You can take a look at him. And now Luke Musgrave is the potential starting tight end for the Packers for the rest of the season. So add him in deeper leagues as well.
Okay. Yeah, Musgrave. Musgrave is like toward the bottom of this list for you?
He is right now. It's just a good week for tight ends, so I would not be surprised if they make a move to go get somebody. But yes, he could be a little bit higher. But I mean, if you have to go into week 10, I don't know all the matchups in front of me, but would you trust him over, let's say, a Juwan Johnson at this point or a Mason Taylor at this point? I think there's pros and cons each way, but you can certainly put him in that lower end group. Like I'm starting the Browns tight ends over him. I'm starting Dalton Schultz over him at this point.
Okay. And how about DSTs this week?
pretty good week. Browns coming off their bye. They get the Jets. Bills get the Dolphins. Panthers against Tyler Shuck. Ravens against J.J. McCarthy. And then the Jets against Dylan Gabriel and the Browns. For kickers, you got Chase McLaughlin coming off his bye week. Jason Myers gets the Cardinals. Joshua Carty gets the 49ers. Prater, if he's still the kicker, gets the Dolphins. And then Will Lutz gets the Raiders at home.
I wonder if this is going to be a low-scoring week because Cincinnati and Dallas are both on a bye. Those are
no Mahomes.
Yeah, right. Kansas City, you have the great offense, but Cincinnati and Dallas, you have the offense and the defense, and then you have Tennessee, who's a great matchup too. All right, Jamey, thank you so much. We'll break it down with more detail with Dave Richard on Tuesday. Have a good one, everybody. Talk